Hey, what's going on? I'm Patrick Jagir, the Cosmic Alchemist, and welcome to this episode. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the month of November. This is my predictions and forecast for the month of November, and I just talk about what different things that are going to come up in the month are all about, really. A lot of this stuff coming. You don't need to be an astrologer to kind of see ahead and predict it a little bit, but I like to get into kind of the meaning of it and what the deeper implications are. So before I forget, if you like my videos, be sure to give me a like and a subscribe and a share. So anyhow, let's get into the month of November. I'm going to talk about the themes for 5-10 minutes. For those of you that don't want to stick around for my full planetary breakdown and dissertation day by day, and then I'll go on with the details after the summary. So, big themes for the month. First off, we're going to have election chaos. Everybody knows this. This is really no mystery that this election is going to be messy, but it's going to be just like 2000. It's going to be a similar situation as year 2000, because on election day this year, just like in 2000, Mercury stations. So Mercury comes out of retrograde, and this is in the sign of Libra. So Mercury is going to stand still that day. So I did a video about Mercury retrogrades recently, but the long and short of retrogrades in general, they're not catastrophes and they're not times for everything to fall apart and be terrible. It's time to go back and review something. So when it's time to go back and review, it's not time to take on something new. So when you take on new things during a retrograde that pertain to the retrograde planet that you absolutely don't have to, then things go awry. So Mercury deals with media, communications, thinking, and even trade to a degree, travel, but definitely the way we think and the way we communicate are up for a review, and we have to go back and sort things out that we did in the past. So when you take on a big new thing during Mercury retrograde, sometimes it goes sideways because it's basically time to correct things rather than do new things. So, and an interesting thing about this year too is we have the Jupiter and Saturn conjunction that happens every 20 years. And historically for the United States, presidents who are elected in 0 years, like 1900, 1920, 1940, and so on, they don't finish their terms for what either reason, or they almost die. So since 1840, we're talking 1840, 1860, 1880, 1900, 1920, 1940, 1960, and then 1980 and 2000, presidents were either assassinated, there was an assassination attempt, or they died in office of an illness. So from 1840, the president then died of pneumonia like a month in office, and then a whole series of presidents were assassinated after him. So Garfield, McKinley, Kennedy, and then 1920 it was Harding who was elected, and he died a couple of years later of an illness. And then there was an attempt on Reagan's life, which he survived, and then it's not well known, but when George W., who was elected in 2000, was in Georgia, not the state of Georgia in the U.S., but Georgia in the Caucasus between Russia and Turkey, somebody threw a grenade at him when he was on stage with the president of Georgia, but it didn't go off. So it appears, and this was called the curse of Tippecanoe, where these presidents elected in these 20-year intervals, most of them died. So the curse appears to be broken, at least with the fatalities to the president, but I think now it's kind of disrupting the whole electoral process. And when you go back into ancient times, especially into Mesopotamia, into Sumer, Babylon, Assyria, Akkad, they knew that you didn't select leaders in years when Jupiter and Saturn were conjunct. In the old days, they called Jupiter and Saturn in conjunction the Star of Bethlehem, because Jupiter is a big bright star, Saturn is a dimmer star, but when they come together, it creates a big bright star. So that's the Star of Bethlehem. Happens every 20 years. It's not something that happened 2 years ago, and it's going to happen again, during the rapture. It's just something that happens every 20 years, and that was a nickname of it. So I think this curse is now translated into electoral chaos like we saw in 2000. And we're going to have it again. So the long and short of this is that we're not going to know who's going to be the president, on the night after the election. It's going to be weeks. They've already, and people know this, they've already said that it's going to take weeks to count the mail-in ballots. We're not going to know at least till the 20th of November, when Jupiter goes into Capricorn with Saturn, after Jupiter conjuncts Pluto in Sagittarius. And it could be as late as, maybe even right before Christmas time. So at least November 20th, we're not going to know who the president is. It's going to be a bit of a shit show, and the Supreme Court's going to decide it. That's why the Democrats were telling Trump not to fill the vacant Supreme Court seat after Ruth Bader Ginsburg died. But that's just basic competition. In a competition, you don't let the other side win, whether it's a Little League baseball game or the Super Bowl or a national election. You just don't let somebody win out of charity. And they're basically begging for charity because they're desperate. And with that said, being desperate, I'll tell you, with the election right now, Trump's going to come out ahead. His campaign has, I don't take a side in this shit, because I think it's kind of sad that people worship these politicians, and they're all narcissists who live in palaces, and they don't care about you as much as you think. So I don't get into it, but Trump's campaign has a ton of energy, and Biden's rallies have more Trump supporters at them than Biden supporters. So there's just no energy there, and when you put these guys' charts next to each other, it's hard for Donald Trump to lose a competition in pretty much anything, because it's ordained by where his planets and his stars sit. So I'm going to make another election video going more into that. But anyway, not going to know who the president is for some weeks. So, just be ready for that. Now, on the heels of that, there's going to be more rioting. I've been looking at the chart of China, People's Republic of China, and comparing it to the United States, and comparing it to what I know about China and their intelligence services. What I learned as an intelligence officer. Chinese intelligence has definitely been involved in this election. They've been funding and equipping groups, like Antifa. They've infiltrated Antifa. They've infiltrated BLM. They're not running BLM, but they're in it, and they're helping to, incite people on the street level to violence. I'm not condemning these movements, but in any country where there's some sort of civil or racial unrest, other countries' intelligence services are there trying to take advantage of it. So on top of the rioting, the violence that we're going to see, and it's going to die down pretty quick, I think. I think people are going to be shocked by their own behavior, and it's going to fail. We were supposed to be, in my opinion, in a civil war by this point, because with the Donald Trump phenomenon, the deep state sees their control slipping away, and the deep state is just the major corporations who own every political party and every politician and really every government on earth. So the deep state saw their power slipping away, and they wanted to create a civil war and get people to fight each other, and it's had extremely limited success. So this post-election violence is going to be short-lived, but it'll be intense in the bigger cities. You're going to see people trying to go after elected officials, even if they're from their party. There's a lot of nihilism right now, and people are there are a lot of propagandists out there especially on the far left, telling people to just burn the whole system down and start all over again. So you're going to see some violence directed toward elected officials. So if you're an elected official, stay low, take your precautions, don't get caught with your ass hanging in the wind like Ambassador Stevens in Benghazi. If you're just a regular person that gets up to go to work in the morning, stay out of the city centers and really avoid the counter protests, because whoever you're protesting for, you're being manipulated. If someone's trying to burn your business down, or like your neighbor's business down, and I see why people get out there and defend them, but minimize your risks this month. So we're going to see a lot of disclosures and revelations. One of the big ones is the media propaganda. So just like 2016, we're being told that Joe Biden is 10 points ahead in the polls, just like Hillary Clinton was. The media is peddling this in order to get people angry so that they'll riot and so that they'll be violent when Donald Trump wins. So it's going to come out that, the media outlets are just run by their corporate sponsors, who are the deep state. So it's going to come out that the poll numbers are manipulated because, like I said, there are more Trump supporters at the Biden rally than there are Biden supporters. So media manipulation is going to come out. It's already coming out with a lot of these, like Twitter is getting grilled by the Senate for just not running stories that cast Joe Biden in an unfavorable light, but you can say anything about Donald Trump. So the media bias is going to become more and more apparent. Congress is putting a boot up their ass, which is really good. And this is all due to the Jupiter-Pluto and Sagittarius conjunction, because Sagittarius is belief systems and worldviews, and Jupiter is that higher consciousness, and Pluto is the god of the underworld. So we're going to be shown all kinds of secrets and dirty hidden secrets that we were in denial of or were just hidden from us. We're going to learn about the COVID origins, the pandemic origins. I haven't said it on this channel yet, but what the hell. We're going to learn more about how this virus, at the very least, was a mistake that got out of a laboratory, because the biological research laboratory with the highest security in China was actually 20 miles from Wuhan, and there's documented evidence that the National Institutes of Health, under the aegis of Dr. Fauci, were actually sending money to China to create more dangerous pathogens than the ones in existence for research purposes. And no lab is airtight. Things get out. That's how Lyme disease got out that way from the Montauk. The Plum Island Research Laboratory. Even scientists have said it, that the fleas and ticks they were studying got out. So it happens. It's possible too it was an engineered biological weapon. Dean Koontz wrote a book back in the 80s or 80s or 90s, and there was a virus called Wuhan 4000 that was very deadly. So we're going to learn about this, and this is going to be the beginning of a time when just revelations and disclosures are going to start, and it's going to go on for years. It's going to go on for this whole decade. So we're going to learn about communist China meddling in the affairs of the United States and buying politicians in both parties. We're going to learn about the Biden business deals. Donald Trump has problems too. He didn't go from taking out $1 million loan to start his business to being a multi-billionaire by never doing a crooked deal. They all do it, but Joe Biden's had his hands in a lot of dirty pies, and he, just like Dick Cheney, he overthrew a country in order to make money. So Dick Cheney took Iraq down. He was the deep state, the corporate deep state, inside man in government to take Iraq down. So Biden was the inside man in 2014 to take down the government of Ukraine. So that's going to come out. He's got all kinds of deals in China. He's being blackmailed and leveraged by the Chinese. It's going to keep coming out. And then the sex scandals are going to keep coming out too. Ghislaine Maxwell did a deposition, and that U.S. attorney in the Virgin Islands is just all over it. And even down the road, you know, some of the UFO stuff that the Pentagon's been talking about, you're going to get more information on that. They're going to start talking about aliens, ETs, and even things like MK Ultra are going to come out eventually, and I'll have a lot to say about that when that time comes. So stay tuned. So that's about it. You know, try not to be too shocked by what comes out. And most of you watching and listening are not, because, you know, you're pretty up on things. But like I always say, realize what you have control over, and that's your own life and your own attitude, and stick to that. And remember that, you know, all these politics they're TV shows. They're reality TV shows. And if you haven't gone to school with these people, you haven't worked with them, gone on vacation with them, hung out with them, you don't know who the hell they are, whether you like them or not. And it's all corporate Madison Avenue, you know, propaganda style advertising that hooks your emotions, and it hooks your fears and your hopes and your dreams and your worries. So it's all brand advertising. So just remember that, and don't fight for them. Don't fight their civil war for them. So, and the other thing too is, you know, if you think one party is the source of all evil, then, you know, you get some narcissism to deal with. And you know, as far as the deep state goes, if you're supporting Joe Biden and you think you're the resistance, you've got big tech and pretty much every major corporation behind you. So the resistance doesn't have empires funding it and backing it. So think about that. So anyway, let's get into the details. So first off, November 3rd, Mercury comes out of retrograde, 1 degree of Libra. Sun's going to be there in Libra, you know, because it is November. And we're going to have an opposition, so a direct aspect with Uranus and Aries in the opposite house. So, and the other thing too is the Sun is going to be ruling the 8th house. And let me, where's my chart? Yeah, Leo's going to be in the 8th house right when this Mercury goes direct. So the Sun in Libra, you know, Libra among many things is politics, and it's going to be in the 10th house. So in government and politics, the Sun and a station Mercury are going to be in there. With the Sun ruling the 8th house, it means that this election has all kinds of hidden details and plots around it. So stay tuned for those. What else do we have here? 5th house, you know, we've got Moon and Rahu both in Taurus within about 6 degrees. So there's some influence on the Moon on our mind. So 5th house is also leadership, politics to a degree. So we're going to have our minds on leadership, but there's going to be this kind of sneaky Rahu energy, and there's something we're not seeing. And Mars is going to be at 21 degrees of Pisces retrograde, and you know, that's going to be in the 3rd house of communication. So a lot of angry communication, and just it can be angry and desperate communication, because Mars doesn't like being in Pisces. Pisces is like retreat and withdrawal from the world and meditation, and Mars likes to do and likes to fight and likes to build. One thing that can happen though is Mars in Pisces can actually make somebody very spiritual, because the nakshatra, the mini constellation that's within the 21st degree of Pisces is Revati, which is all about spirituality and bringing, you know, spirituality to the world. So it goes either way with Mars in those degrees of Pisces. So it can be very desperate and fundamentalist and just, you know, ready to take on the world, or it can be very spiritual. And I think people are really diverging in that way right now. And then we have, on that day, we have Jupiter and Pluto both in Sagittarius in the 12th house. So Pluto at 28 degrees, Jupiter at 27 degrees, just getting ready to conjunct. So they're in each other's orbs. So the 12th house is a house of secrets and hidden things, and, you know, things done in the dark, you know, outside of the light of day, because they're sketchy and illegal. And Sagittarius is belief systems. So when these two planets are this close and they're coming together, we're going to get seemingly out of nowhere, we're going to realize that what we believed was a lie, and what we've been fed lies, and we took them on as beliefs. So get ready for that. 7th of November, we've got Sun and Mars are going to be in a 6-8 sort of a relationship, so they're going to be 6 and 8 houses away from each other. So the Sun will be 8 houses away from Mars with Mars looking at it, and Mars will be 6 houses from the Sun. So, and the Sun will be at 21 degrees of Libra and Mars at that 21 degrees of Pisces. So they're at the same degree in different signs. So they're really looking at each other with these aspects. So this is going to be just violence towards leaders in general. Once you get rioting going, you get really desperate, crazy rioters. They'll go after the people they voted for because they've been propagandized and they've been spun up. So, crazy times. 10th of November, that is the conjunction, Jupiter and Pluto at 28 degrees of Sagittarius. So, look for some crazy things to come out here. Look for your beliefs to get rocked. Some beliefs that you took for granted. Look for those to just get totally blown up, and realize that you got fed some lies, and it happens to the best of us. So happened to me for years. And then on that same day, Mars and Venus are in opposite signs. Venus is in 21 degrees of Virgo, where it's debilitated. Mars is at 21 degrees of Pisces, where it's retrograde. So Venus is like diplomacy and social activity and romance and people getting along. And Mars is all this anger and warrior energy and violence. So Venus and Virgo can't really be diplomatic, and it can't get along socially. So when they're looking at each other at the exact same degrees in these opposite signs, it's going to make people angry, and they're going to be in very strong disagreement with each other. Family members, friends, co-workers arguing with each other and about this shit show election. So ready for that. 14th of November, we come to the Mars station. Mars is going to station and stand still at 21 degrees of Pisces so that it can go direct and move forward again. So like I said, that's in the nakshatra of Revati, of spirituality. And this is in the second pada of Revati, so it's spirituality that anyone can understand and anyone can appreciate. So people are either going to embrace spirituality and non-dualism and real unity at this time. Politicians throw the word unity around, but it just means either you agree with our side or you're evil. But I mean real unity, where people are not dualistic and they're not tribal, and they can allow people to have a different point of view and not hate them and think they're evil. So we get an opportunity to convert our anger into that sort of a mindset, or we can just reject it and be angry. And you can bet a lot of people will. So a really important thing about this Mars in Pisces, stationing and going direct in Pisces, there was one of these back in 1941. Last time it was in this degrees. It went direct very close to this. So on November 10th, 1941, Mars was retrograde, and then it's stationed at 23 degrees of Pisces. So this is really important, because that was a trigger for Pearl Harbor, was that Mars going direct. And when you look at the Pearl Harbor attack on the part of the Japanese Empire, it was clever, but it was very desperate, and they actually didn't carry it out till its full extent. It was supposed to be in 2 waves. They were supposed to go bomb the ships, and then another wave of planes was going to go bomb the airfields and to take all the planes out. And they didn't do it because Admiral Yamamoto thought that the Americans were going to strike back and retaliate, but they didn't quite realize how much that the U.S. was caught with their pants down. So, and I think really Admiral Yamamoto, who led the Japanese fleet, he knew what a desperate gamble that was to sail across the Pacific Ocean and hit Pearl Harbor like that. So the Japanese Empire really did something very, very desperate, and the attack went off before the diplomats in Washington, the Japanese diplomats in Washington delivered the declaration of war to the president. So the whole thing didn't go off as planned because, Mars in Pisces it doesn't fight logically, it fights very desperately. It's like you wake someone up in the middle of the night and they jump out of bed naked and they go try to fight 8 home invaders with a knife, and they might win, but there's nothing planned about it. So this may be queuing up a Chinese Pearl Harbor. I'm going to do another video on this, but I think this could happen on December 3rd because China's natal Rahu is in Pisces at 23 degrees. So Mars is going to station at 21 degrees, and it's going to take almost a month to cover those 2 degrees, and conjunct with People's Republic of China's natal Rahu. And for China, that's in their 3rd house of communication and dealing with your neighbors, and 3rd house, it's the original house of Gemini, so it can deal with computers. I'm thinking it's some kind of a cyber thing that's going to go down, but we're going to see. I'm going to make another video on that because that's a whole subject. How am I doing? Shit, it's almost a half hour. Let's keep going. 15th of November, we've got a new moon in Libra at 29 degrees. So, miracle degree. 0 and 29 degrees are the miracle degrees. It's going to be opposing Uranus. Uranus is going to be at retrograde at 13 degrees in Aries. Now, Uranus has about an 80-year orbit, and it's like 84 years. It stays in a sign for around 7 years. So the last time that Uranus was in Aries was 1934 to 41. So the last time we had new moons in Libra at this time of year, November, opposing or directly mutually aspecting Uranus in Aries was in the years leading up to World War II, and even the first couple years of it, because it kicked off in 1939 in Europe. So, and I need to go back and look when the last time there was a new moon in Libra at 29 degrees, if there was one, from 1934 to 41. But this is kind of setting up sort of a similar vibe to those years leading up to World War II. We're not going to have a military. People talk about World War III. If it does happen, it's not going to be military, because in those years you had Saturn in signs where it couldn't keep the governments under control. During World War II, Saturn was in a little bit of Pisces, and in Aries, Taurus, Gemini. It had no control over governments. Saturn is in Capricorn now, its home sign, which signifies government, and then it's going to be in Aquarius, its other home sign. So Saturn has a tight grip on government right now. So Saturn's saving our asses from some sort of a military 3rd World War, but there could be a big, like a trade war in a few years, like a lot of cyber attacks kind of thing. So interesting though that we're in very similar times when you look at what Uranus is doing. So, new moon in Libra. Libra, it's relationships, it's business, it's balance, it's balancing out value, it's politics. So new moons are when the moon goes dark. So when the moon goes dark, when the mind goes dark, it's just surprising, shocking things come out of it. So we're going to learn some very shocking things about politics. So more about China's meddling in politics, how many politicians they've bought off, how many business leaders they've bought off, how they've been involved in supporting and training and equipping and funding rioters in this country. The Biden business deals in China. So more and more of that. And then 16th of November, we've got Venus enters Libra with Mercury, and they're going to be, ooh, there's the sun. They're going to be opposing, mutually aspecting that Uranus and Aries. Saturn's going to have its 10th aspect on Libra with Venus and Mercury, and Mars is going to have its 8th aspect on it. So this is going to be all about basically trying to smooth things over after there's been all this anger and all these angry communications and angry exchanges about politics. You know, when you get Mars and Saturn coming together, you get conflict. Without Venus there, this would just be, you know, our intellect, Mercury, would just be embroiled in all kinds of angry thinking and communication about politics. But, you know, Venus is coming in to try to help cool that down. We also have Sun in Scorpio at this time. So Sun in Scorpio really digs down into the heart of matters. So you're going to see more of the truth coming out, you know. And it's like, yeah, Donald Trump has a lot of problems, but he's not the whole problem. And really, with politics right now, the people who look all nice and smiling and compassionate and progressive are not as nice as you think, and the people who, you know, seem really evil and hateful are not as bad as you think. So it's a house of mirrors. 17th of November, we have Mercury's at 13 degrees of Libra, and it's direct opposition with Uranus in retrograde at 13 degrees of Aries. So, you know, one thing that Uranus does is it's a great liberator and it's a great revealer. So we're going to start getting liberated from the way we used to look at politics and the role it used to have in our lives and the false beliefs that we've had about it. And, you know, we've had a huge addiction to kissing ass for years and years, you know, for thousands of years, because especially since, you know, the Roman Empire and then, you know, Roman Christianity was forced on pretty much all of us. So we've been taught to kiss ass to people in authority. And that was all in the age of Pisces, which is all about ingratiating yourself and kissing ass to people, you know, at the top of the pyramidal hierarchy and just adoring them and thinking they're so wonderful and amazing. So Uranus is helping to strip us of all that ass kissing of people in power. 20th of November, that's a big day. Jupiter enters Capricorn, comes into Saturn's house. So Saturn's at about it's going to be at about 3-4 degrees of Capricorn at the time. Let me double check that. Oh, come on. Come on, wrong year. There it is. Yeah, Saturn will be at 3 degrees at the time. So Jupiter's going to be pretty close already, and then they're going to meet up on the winter solstice on December 21st. So that Jupiter-Saturn conjunction it's always about overthrowing an old order, because Saturn is like the world order. Saturn rules the 3D and hierarchy and government and the law. And in the myths, Jupiter, or Zeus, was the son of Saturn, also called Kronos by the Greeks. And Jupiter, the sun, was a rebel, and he overthrew his father, Saturn, or Kronos. He castrated him and he kicked him off of his throne. So that has to do with this whole, you know, curse of the presidents, because especially when, you know, a president is getting, you know, killed by someone, that assassin is a rebel, and, you know, the president is the ruler of the old order. So that's why in ancient times, countries, you know, nations didn't pick leaders in years when Jupiter and Saturn came together, because it was about wiping the old away. So you don't want to bring in a new leader who is going to be, you know, cleared out by that energy. So this is the clearing out of the New World Order, you know, the deep state. And again, the deep state is just a bunch of corporations who own the government and who have appointed employees and just hired employees who that they've paid off to basically do things their way. So, you know, that New World Order is going to get its ass kicked. You know, and he's not a great guy, but, you know, Donald Trump is the manifestation of the energy in the universe that's kicking that New World Order's ass, that deep state's ass. He's got a lot of problems of his own, but I think for egotistical reasons, he wants to see his country do well. He wants to have his legacy as the guy who kicked the deep state's ass on behalf of America and the American people. So, you know, I'll take it. So, and then we have the 27th, we've got Venus at 13 degrees of Libra, opposing and mutually aspecting that Uranus and Aries, retrograde at 13 degrees. So all these planets looking directly across at that Uranus in Aries in retrograde. So, you know, Venus is, again, it's diplomacy and it's friendship and it's social activity and it's relationships. So, you know, Uranus is helping to overturn everything dealing with those types of social activity that just don't serve us anymore. Uranus tears down things that don't serve us anymore and liberates us from them. So then 28th, Mercury is going to transit into Scorpio with the Sun in Ketu. This is going to be a big time for revelations and disclosures because Scorpio is all about drilling down into hidden issues and emotions and thoughts and just taboo subjects. You know, and conspiracy theories are taboo subjects. So a lot of conspiracy theories are going to be, authorities are going to tell us that they're real. So I'm not going to repeat all those. You can go back to the beginning of the video. And 29th, Neptune's going to station. Neptune's been in retrograde in Aquarius, 24 degrees. Neptune is both a great revealer and a great deceiver, depending on where your consciousness is at, whether you're trying to get honest with yourself or whether you want to be delusional and, you know, you can't deal with the truth. So we're going to see 29th is going to open a window for all kinds of revelations and disclosures about deception, particularly in the media, because Neptune rules illusions and delusions, and it rules virtual realities, and the media is virtual reality, because when you see somebody speak on TV, you don't see the full speech, you don't see them beforehand and afterwards when they take off their stage face. You just see carefully selected segments, or you hear carefully selected sound bites of what they had to say. So, yeah, media deception and China's involvement. China giving money to, you know, the media's corporate sponsors and the media itself. So, get ready. Conspiracy theories are going to become more and more real. And then, lastly, 30th of November, lunar eclipse. And lunar eclipses happen on full moon, so it's a full moon as well. Lunar eclipse in Taurus, 14 degrees. Taurus is value and wealth. And it's about being your own advocate. So self-advocacy. So this is going to be visible in North America, East Australia, East China, Japan, Korea, you know, Western Siberia, and then sort of the northwest part of South America, like Colombia, Venezuela, Ecuador. So it's in all of Canada, all of Mexico, Central America. So it's like North America and the Pacific Rim is going to see this lunar eclipse in Taurus. So yeah, get a muffler. Penis extender truck. So anyway, this full moon and lunar eclipse at 14 degrees of Taurus, it's in North America and then the Pacific Rim going out to China. To me, this is all about people realizing how sneaky and greedy that China's been, trying to basically take over governments in entire countries by spreading their influence, by bribing and paying people off. So you're going to be seeing more and more about the Biden family through all this. So yeah, there is nothing progressive or compassionate or stylish about China. They took over the Human Rights Commission so people wouldn't see them, putting people into concentration camps and, doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And they bought themselves loopholes out of the Paris Accords and out of all these climate change regulations. So the Chinese people are good, hardworking people, but the Chinese government is nasty, and it's a bunch of fascists that insulate themselves from the people with a socialist management system, just like people in our government are trying to do. Every system of government, socialism, social democracy, communism, it's always funded and owned by fascists and by fascist bankers, because every government needs to borrow money, and you can't steal enough money to, even the Soviets couldn't steal enough money to run their government on. They borrowed money from Wall Street. So that's a mouthful. That's that. Thanks for tuning in. And while I remember it, please give me a like, a subscribe, and a share if you like my videos, you like my content. I highly recommend a Vedic astrology reading from me in these times. These are crazy, challenging, stressful times. And I don't do astrology readings to entertain. I do them to help people to get a different look at themselves and their lives, and really see what their what the opportunities and the hidden talents are that they have, that they didn't see before. And I do rune readings too. It's a great mind map to help you kind of balance your mind out, help you get more of what you want out of life. I have some videos for sale for download, some Qigong videos. I've got Thor's Hammer Qigong, Celestial Qigong, Thor's Hammer Qigong. It's a great way to start the day, get your energy and your blood moving, warm yourself up, and just put out your energy to maintain your immune system and your kind of psycho-emotional barriers from other people in crazy times like this. And then Celestial Qigong is a nighttime practice that helps you to sync yourself up with the stars and the planets once the energy of the sun is not, flooding the sky. So anyway, talk to you later. Have a good one.